Namaste and welcome back to another episode of The Sapient. Today we have yet another guest, and she is pretty spectacular from what I have read of her bio. And she has authored multiple books, and she just seems to be an overall awesome person. So, welcome, Alexandra.
Hello, Ganesh. It's lovely to be here today. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. How about you?
Yes, good. It's starting to feel autumnal here in Scotland. Just the last couple of days,
Mm-hmm.
cold and windy.
Mm-hmm. That's like majority of the year there, right? It's always like cold and windy.
Pretty much, pretty much. Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, I saw you not wanting to give your pride away.
absolutely. We have
um
we have had quite a lot of sunshine this
mhm,
summer. I would like everyone to know,
mhm,
perhaps more than our fair share.
got it. And because you are doing so many like different works or jobs or whatever you want to call it as, um because you have written three books, as far as I know, and you have your own website, which also looks like fantastic, by the way.
Thank
How, like, how did you come about it? Like, what was the starting point?
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's just been quite a journey over the last few years. I'm based here in the UK, and for about 15 years, I lived with my husband in London and worked in our civil service, which
Mhm,
supports the government of the day to do all the things it needs to do. And I also worked in the charitable sector as a chief operating officer, so kind of running the charity. Um, so I
mhm,
did all of that kind of work, but it it was good work, right? But it wasn't
mhm,
my kind of life journey, if you like. And so I realized that I needed to make a shift, and this was all related to my personal journey. So
mhm.
I will probably talk about this more later, but I had some complex life
Yeah.
circumstances to recover
Mhm,
from. And so, in the last couple of years, I've moved with my husband up to Scotland, and I've set up this new business called Damsel Not in Distress, which is all about
mhm,
helping people on their path to peace and liberation and their higher purpose in life. And that's also why I've written my book that I released recently called Reclaiming Christmas, which kind of does what it
mhm,
says in the tin. Christmas is meant to be this lovely, wonderful, happy season. For me, it had become very tainted over the years, but I found a way
mhm,
through to the other side. So I wanted to write about that to help other people who might be facing similar issues.
mhm. And what was like that kind of point? Because you just said that there was that kind of question in your brain where you were like, okay, like what do I do? Um, so what was your like the first question that you asked yourself in terms of when you started writing these books?
So, I mean, the turning point for me was I decided to follow a professional career because it seemed like the logical thing to do. Everyone at school told me I was really bright and the world was my oyster, and I should go and do something really, really clever and great. And I was capable of it. Like I did the work, and I could achieve the things that were there to be achieved, but it wasn't bringing me happiness and it wasn't bringing me peace. And in fact, the opposite. It was over time, it was accumulating. I would say to myself, this next job that I've just got, this is the perfect job. This is the one that will make me
Mhm,
happy. And then I would get to that job and I wasn't happy. And that happened
mhm,
several times. And my friends would tell you that each time I said, this is my perfect job, I've made it finally. And each time I
mhm,
was wrong. So there was that. And then there was this whole situation with my father. So the sad truth of it is that I suffered from emotional abuse from him through my life, but
mhm,
and it had all these impacts on me. But it's taken me a very, very long time to even understand that it was happening, and then longer
mhm,
still to kind of heal from it. And so, because I was just so determined to share that with the world, because I think it's a topic we don't talk about very much, and I think a lot of people suffer in silence. So that was really my motivation for writing my book. Like, here, I'm going to give you the full raw experience kind of as it happened, so that hopefully
mhm,
you can read it and and for the people for whom it resonates, it will give them hope that there is a way to the other side.
Mhm. Got it. And what was the initial kind of concept where you came up with this website, that's damsel not in distress, sorry, distressed?
So don't know if everyone around the world has the same story, but I know this story from my childhood where you have a princess in a tower. There are different
Mhm.
versions of this story, and you often see her standing on a balcony, but she can't escape. She's being held in some way, and so we have this description, a damsel in distress, and
Mhm.
very often. Generally, in these stories, a prince comes along and rescues the princess, and they all go and live
Mhm.
happily ever after. And I think for me, I wanted this phrase "damsel not in distress." It's like, right, I'm not in distress, so I can claim
Mhm.
that, but I didn't need to be rescued by a prince. And so there's a whole
Mhm.
story behind that. Like, the healing journey has been mine, and I've had helpers along the way. I just think
Mhm.
it's a powerful name.
Yes, that kind of makes you wonder what's it about.
Yeah, exactly.
um yeah, and it also like makes you like look into it, like what's it exactly. So in your bio you also say that you're a life coach, and life coaches like usually like garner a lot of hate from people who are successful. What's your kind of point of view of like being a life coach, or no, is it really necessary in our society?
Interesting question. So I think it's quite hard to put on a label on some of these things that we do, and so I've through my career, because I've been a leader in a
Mm-hmm.
number of different environments, I have through my work in supporting and leading my teams, I've always been coaching and guiding, and even veering into counselling at times, because for me, life and work are all one thing, right? So if you're
Mm-hmm.
supporting a team member at
Mm-hmm.
work, you really should be supporting them in their life, because it's all
Mm-hmm.
interrelated. So when I decided to make this change and set up Damsel Not in Distress, I was really keen to
Mm-hmm.
have the credentials to do that so that people could trust me. So I've done
Mm-hmm.
4 different qualifications actually in coaching and in counselling. Some of
Mm-hmm.
it was life coaching, some of it was more health and wellness coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think it's all fluffy and there's nothing to it. Actually,
Yeah.
I would say the things that
Mm-hmm.
we can do to feel better in our lives are actually not rocket science. They're actually fairly straightforward things often. But the reason it's
Mm-hmm.
hard is because life is tough. We don't have time. We've got challenges coming our way every day. And so we don't make time for the things that would help us to feel better. So a life coach's job is really just to help shine a light on those things and guide people on the way.
Mm-hmm. Because I have seen like a lot of successful people, shit on life coaches who are like life coaches are not like are not necessary, and all these things. And sometimes like they say like like life is something that happens to everybody, and if you are so successful of life, you would not teach it to anybody else. And I feel like that is like a misguided thing, because like Joe Rogan said that the worst thing that you have faced is the worst thing that you have faced. It's like like people who have seen very hard time, you know and those people who are very rich, let's say, and they did not eat one night, and that's the hardest thing that they went through,
Mm.
right? And here is, let's say, economically, like, very harsh hardship where people are not eating on days together, and that's the hardest thing that they face. So do you think that life coaches or just like this, I would like to call like mentoring, or what our elders used to do about 50 years ago in our society, do you think like that is highly tailored and not like scripted?
Absolutely right. I think life coaching can look different for different people. You meet the person where they need to be met, and help them with what they uniquely need help with. And I think it's really, really interesting what you said there about successful people who can make it on their own. So I've definitely witnessed some so-called successful people who are so self-assured that they think they can just make it by themselves, but they have serious blind spots, like, and they don't know what they're
Mm-hmm.
doing to the people around them, and sometimes they're in leadership positions and they simply have no
Mm-hmm.
sense of the things that they don't understand about themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
one really interesting thing for me when I think about my father, I've been reflecting about this actually just in the last couple of months. I think his biggest failing was that he wasn't willing to seek help or to ask
Mm-hmm.
advice from people. He just didn't do it with anyone, as far as I'm aware. And
Mm-hmm.
so he relied on himself, and that was fine up to a point. But I think if we don't learn from other people, and if we don't get broader perspectives and broader
Mm-hmm.
insights, I think we're just setting ourselves up for a fall, to be honest. So, you know, life coaching is about just supporting people in the way that will most benefit them, and, you know, yes, perhaps shining a light on some stuff that may be uncomfortable for that person, but we sometimes need to feel the
Mm-hmm.
discomfort, right, to move forward into a better future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you just pissed off like a bunch of woke people when you said we need discomfort. They're like, how dare you? Like in Greta Thunberg's voice, like how dare you? Um, like what do you think about this? Like honestly, like decay of morals in society, where the biggest thing that we see today is people are not teaching their younger generations about consequences of action.
Mm, yeah, it is hard, isn't it? I mean, I think look, there's a balance in all of these things, and I think you have rights as a person and you have responsibilities as a person, and, you know, whatever
Hmm.
you do absolutely has consequences, and I think
Hmm.
um, it's too easy to just decide that the way you're going to make sense of the world is to say everything is good fundamentally, and, you know, we will all just fundamentally be good. I have to say my view is a
Hmm.
little bit, I would say, more realistic than that, in the sense that we all
Hmm.
have good and bad in us. We all have, you know, the good tendencies and the bad tendencies, and if we don't again, shining a light, if we don't understand
Hmm.
what our shadow looks like, what our darker side looks like, then we can do all manner of things and have no idea what we're doing, or we
Hmm.
might see what we're doing, but we just don't want to talk about it because it's too hard. And I do
Yeah.
think that's where my father was. There were times I tried to
Hmm.
open up the conversation about what was happening, and there was nothing coming out. Like, it was sort of like, we are
Hmm.
closing this door, and I think it's such a shame, because the only way to get to a better place is to go through it,
Hmm.
is to go through the conversation or through the process in whatever way we
Yeah.
can.
Yes, I think because I was just seeing other day, like there was a child in a mall and he was just destroying stuff,
Mm.
and the both parents were just standing there and saying no, no, stop it. And me being an Indian, and coming from a very cultured like household, I couldn't even imagine that even at this age. I'm 20 or 26 right now, and I'm completely like independent. I have career and everything, and even till today I could not imagine doing that, like just walking up to a mall and just start let's say just destroying chips packets, or
Mm.
like that is not something that my society never allowed me to do. Because if I did that, forget that. Even if I attempted to do that, yeah, like I would see hell pretty fast. And I feel like like that's kind of like very instilled belief that has been put in me as a person, like you have to follow these particular rules because it's not about you.
Mm.
And that was the biggest lesson that I have learned from my childhood, that it's not about you. If your parents say, like be respectful to your elders, and they're not like, because he's elder than you, you have to be respectful. They're just like, you are a kid, you not understand, you'll get angry very soon, and like you will start abusing that person, so you better be respectful, right? Like it's that simple. So do you think like in today's world we have got so much like self-centered, where it's like me, 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 rather than just society, or just like looking at even just our life as a whole, where we are just going through this experience, meeting as many people as possible.
There's so much to unpack there. So I am not a kind of child psychologist expert. So just to put that caveat on, and I also
Mm-hmm.
don't have kids of my own, but I have lots of friends who have children, and I can definitely see that there is such a balancing act in bringing up kids, and sometimes a child will be acting out because something is going on for them, and so simply just meeting them with discipline, harsh or otherwise, might not fix it if there is a broader issue at play, if there is something that's just bothering them. I think the other really fascinating thing is, kids at a younger age, they don't actually have empathy until they get to a certain age. That's just not something a child has. So trying to appeal to their sense of, well, how will the other person feel, it's just not going to work in the same way. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of complex stuff at play. I do think one of the biggest gifts I got from my childhood was discipline, in the sense of
Yeah.
I can be disciplined to get on with what I need to do, even if I don't particularly enjoy it. So setting up my business,
Mm-hmm.
this most of it I love, but there are aspects of it I've absolutely hated. And I can
Mm-hmm.
see why a lot of people fail, actually, why they just fall away, because it is really hard when you're starting out and you
Mm-hmm.
don't have a lot of money necessarily to just fling at the problem and
Yeah.
get other people to fix it. So you have to do it yourself and so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think it's a complex balancing act. I would definitely say that there is a kind of self-centered issue that we have, and just
Mm-hmm.
generally, and with the challenges that humanity faces, all the big things, climate change, the other things that are coming down the road, the only way we're going to make it through is if we can see things as a community, as a
Mm-hmm.
broader group. And my experience is community is easier on a smaller scale. Like when you know the people and you trust them, you really trust them, community is much easier. Community on a big scale, which is what we're also going to need, that is tougher, because building up
Mm-hmm.
trust and empathy and connection is
Mm-hmm.
difficult sometimes.
Yeah. I brought up this point because you use a term called as child psychologist,
Yeah.
and I have read psychology to an extent, and I understand psychologists and psychology as well, because I have like people who I know who are psychologists, and I have talked to them about this in a great length. So, like, I really don't think so that like you need to be like a child psychologist to be like fluent with children, um because psychology has presented this kind of like very weird point of views about world. Like, like the biggest thing that I can think of is like, introvert and extroverts, right?
Hmm.
And people who say I am an extrovert, I'm like, no, you're not. Because I'm pretty sure, like, have you seen like a Big Brother, Australia, the TV
Yeah.
series, right?
Yes, I've seen our version
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, okay, if you're an extrovert, go live in that house and see how many days will you stay extrovert before you crave privacy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or if you're an introvert, just stay in your home, never come out, never talk to people, and especially do not use Instagram or any social media to have any touch points with the real society. And let's see how many days do you last until you crave that the touch of humanity or humans, right?
Mm.
So that's like the simplest thing. And like, I have seen psychologists who say that extrovert does not mean he's extrovert always. It's just the majority of their characteristics are extrovert. And I'm like, yeah, but it's just saying like, I'm a non-vegetarian. Because okay, if you're non-vegetarian, like, if let's say there was a very clear indication of this is vegetarian, this is non-vegetarian, you would say the non-vegetarian is not going to consume anything that a vegetarian is going to consume, right? Because that's a basic division. Because when you say, okay, you are a non-vegetarian, that means you eat meat that a vegetarian cannot eat, right? So there is a very like clear cut line in between that. So do you think that somewhere us like thinking that we are sophisticated and we know humans very well has also like caused like many problems in today's world.
Oh, absolutely. I think as human beings, we think we understand ourselves far better than we actually do. So, my biggest example would be that we love to think that we're rational and that we make all our
Hmm.
decisions on logic. No, we make our decisions based on our emotions, and our emotions can take us all over the place. Just to go to your
Yeah.
introvert extrovert point, um, it absolutely is on a spectrum. All of these
Hmm.
characteristics are on a spectrum. So I love some of the different personality tests that I did at work. Again, it's all about team building, like how are we the same and how are we different and how can we interact. And I come out strongly introverted. And
Hmm.
genuinely, Ganesh, I can sit in my room for days. I did it in the pandemic and I was
Hmm.
quite happy. I have to be honest. I did not find that a distressing experience, but I'd be lying if I said that I didn't need human connection.
Yeah.
But it takes very little to overwhelm me. You know, a big party,
Hmm.
I can deal with it for about an hour and then I'm out of there. So I'm quite strongly introvert, but take another type of characteristic, thinking versus feeling. So how do you kind of
Hmm.
make your decisions? Is it thinking or is it feeling? I am right in the middle, really borderline.
Hmm.
And it very much depends what the decision is, what the prevailing factors are. All sorts of different things come in the mix. So I might, for example, be a bit more logical when I'm in the office as a civil
Hmm.
servant and a bit more feeling when I'm at home and it's like a family decision. But sometimes the boundaries can be very blurred.
Yeah, I think like because today's psychologists, and I'm not like talking about well established psychologists, I'm just talking about half cooked as like I'm smart kind of psychologists that are out there. um like they have brought this kind of set of challenges that's like even a person without psychology can smell bullshit. He would say like, yeah, dude, just shut the fuck up, like um because like because here is what I have understood from psychology. Like psychologists ever have tried to create boxes or molds that they can fit people in, and I'm like, yeah, that does not work. um because each and every person is like going through his or her own evolution process every day, where they are facing their own sort of challenges and like trials and tribulations. And like how do you think is like the best way for a person to like develop his personality in terms of breaking that mold, let's say like breaking that psychological mold that it's out there? So what would be like your suggestion on that?
Yeah, wow. I'm going to start by just saying that I
Hmm.
am hugely hugely supportive of and inspired by science, right? So the fact that humanity has managed to understand as much as we have, to explain things, to have both observational understanding but also put theories together and then test those theories. If we didn't have that, we would be lost. So we have a framework of understanding, and that is amazing. So I did a doctorate in applied maths, and actually when I was a kid, I was so drawn to maths as a topic because there was one, there was a right answer. And I wasn't going to have a debate with somebody about it. There was a right answer. And if I had it, I could say,
Alexandra,
yeah,
I think you're becoming too controversial by saying math as one answer.
well, the problem at hand has a right answer. Yeah. So,
No, no. uh, because it was recently proved that 2 plus 2 equals 4 is inherently racist. And um I'm trying to like control my laughter, but like the perception of thinking that 2 plus 2 equals 4 is inherently racist because it assumes that everything works on a principle.
oh, you'd have to give me a bit more on that one. What's more of the background to that?
Yeah, so they are saying math is racist. um and like math has, um if I remember correct, yeah, they said math has white supremacy written all over it because it says 2 plus 2 equals 4. It cannot be 5 or 6 or 3. And um a lot of woke people are trying to prove that 2 plus 2 equals 5 or 2 plus 2 equals 3. because they think that we should not tell children what to think about the world by showing them 2 plus 2 equals 4.
Interesting. I mean, I'm not quite sure how to reply to that. So I can't see the racist link. I have to say, I can see how people might be like, "Oh, you're just telling people that this is the only way," but the racist bit, I'm slightly struggling to see. But
So they are saying that you telling people like 2 plus 2 equals 4, like that itself is like like white supremacist like kind of thing, where you have uh, um advantage, like you are in a higher position because you're telling people 2 plus 2 equals 4.
well, I remember back when I was at school because I was really good at maths. I was asked to teach the class that was just about to take their big exams, and I'll never forget. So many of
Hmm.
them said to me, "But why is this the answer?" And I realised that I would be a
Hmm.
really awful maths teacher because my answer was just because it is. It's just this is a logical
Hmm.
framework, and this is the answer. I don't know how to explain it in any other way, but it is interesting because. I think if you have that logical brain where maths makes sense, then it you
Hmm.
just see it, like it's just in front of you, and it just makes sense. But
Yeah,
but I would say
but
that
hmm
ma- where I was going with that was that maths and science, etc., they're not the whole story, right? They are really important tools, and I would argue without them we would be totally stuffed as a race. I mean, we wouldn't have anything
yeah.
and any ability to do things, but it doesn't answer everything. And so coming back to kind of psychological theories, for example, or really any theory, it takes you a certain way, but then you have to figure out how to apply it. And you also, like you say, every human being is unique. And I found, for example, there were some healing techniques which have been proven to work, like scientifically proven to work for given situations, and they didn't work with me. And it wasn't
Hmm.
because I didn't want them to work. I mean, I would have taken anything, right? I
Hmm.
would have, there was a particular technique for curing phobias, and it just didn't cure my phobia. And I remember
Hmm.
just thinking to myself, this is a bit more complicated, right? It obviously works enough of the time that
Hmm.
scientifically it shows up as something that works, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for
Yeah.
everyone. So life is complicated.
Hmm. Got it. And just getting back on the math curveball that I just threw, or if you are aware of like cricket, let's say bouncer that I just threw. um, yeah, so according to torontosun.com, radical teachers claim that saying 2 plus 2 equals 4 is white supremacy, and their reasoning was saying 2 plus 2 equals 4 is an example of covert white supremacy, according to a group of influential math teachers in ontario, sorry, or whatever it is. Questioning them on their assertion simply means you are anti-trans and anti-immigrant person who does not like anyone who is not white.
Interesting. I mean, I would say that a load of different people might want to say that 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4, not necessarily from a particular group. So I did have someone debate with me why 2 plus 2 had to equal 4, and again ended
Mhm,
up coming back to that it just is in this paradigm. It just is.
mhm.
I couldn't really get any further, but
Alexandra, I think I'm trying to make you a politician by the end of this episode, where you are highly opinionated. Yeah, and yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to do here.
oh, I don't think there's any
Because
chance of me becoming a politician. I have to say,
you never know, you never know.
true, true. Never say never.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Boris Johnson became prime minister.
He did. There are, yeah.
Yeah.
Politics is an exciting game.
Mhm. Yeah, like Joe Biden became a president, like Donald Trump became a president. So yeah, never say never.
Yeah.
Who knows? Like in the next time I'm going to have you here, you'll be like, yeah, I'm with the Labour Party, and this is our manifesto before the elections.
I will definitely give you the heads up if that looks like it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, your next, like, the book that I wanted to talk about is Reclaim Your Christmas.
Mhm.
It sounds so anti, like, anti-Christ, or that's what, like, a lot of people like call it as like an anti-Christ or anti-Christian.
What, the book or the topic?
The title
Oh,
itself.
the title itself. So I meant it more as in reclaiming the joy of something that had been sullied by stuff that had happened. That was more what I meant. I know what you mean though. Sometimes I think that phrase can be used by some Christians who want to say that Christmas is all about the Christian side and not about just
Yeah.
going out and eating turkey or giving ourselves loads of presents or whatever else. So yeah, I think it is used in that context as well.
Yeah, I think I'm just trying to make you controversial by this point. um I would not be surprised if tomorrow, like, BBC would report Alexandra Walker with her anti-Christ, anti-Christian book called as Reclaim Your Christmas.
I would hope not. So I'm Christian, right? So this is why, in a way, this is why
Yeah.
Christmas matters to me. But I also, just to say, I also recognise, there are loads of other festivals in other religions and other faiths, and I make this point at the beginning of the book. The reason I focus on Christmas is because that's what I celebrate. But it's really
Hmm.
about any time of year which is meant to be special, and particularly, I think, a time of year where you're meant to be with family and celebrating something, and that can become very complicated for different reasons, whether it's grief if you've lost someone that you love, or if you have a difficult family relationship which just gets poked at because you're together at that
Hmm.
time. There can be different
Yeah.
reasons why these times of celebration can actually be quite tricky for people.
Yeah, and also that creepy uncle shows up,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh no. And if you are speaking to Hindus, like, you'd have to talk to us like for 50 days in a year, because those many celebrations and festivals is what we have over here.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so
And yeah, we are under constant pressure.
yeah, it really can turn into a pressure, can't it? And I think for me, what happened, because I had this situation with emotional abuse from my father, basically Christmas was like a flashpoint. And it was really weird because my mother loved Christmas. Like, she was your ultimate fan of Christmas. She would spend all year planning for it. Like, if she saw a nice present in the shops in January, she would buy
Hmm.
it and save it
Hmm.
up for Christmas. Like, she was always doing that, and it was
Hmm.
really lovely. She just wanted to create, I think, a sanctuary at that time of year. It was, it can feel a bit magical. It can feel like, a time of year where
Hmm.
fun stuff can happen and it's not as dreary as some of the rest of the year. But for some reason, so my father could always become argumentative and difficult, but it always happened just before Christmas, maybe like the 21st of December or the 22nd of December. He would just go into a terrible mood. And I mean a terrible mood. It was so I describe it in the book as a thundercloud. So it was like this thundercloud just suddenly appeared and sat over the house. And I was an only child. My mother and I had to just try and deal with it. Um, and we tried our best and we got through it, and inevitably by Christmas Day we'd kind of got there and he was in a better mood again, and we celebrated Christmas, and I do remember some nicer things. The trouble is, because that happened every year and then there were some particularly bad examples, um I just have this fear about Christmas, right? You just, when something happens regularly every year, you just have a tension when that time of year comes around. And I found it was hard. I got to the point where I couldn't celebrate Christmas at all. So 2 years ago, my husband and I just didn't participate. And then last year I said, right, enough's enough. I'm taking it back. I'm reclaiming it. I'm just going to make a really intentional effort to look at the ghosts of the past and decide that they are in the past and heal myself and be able to enjoy it again. So that's what it's all about. It, spoiler alert, the book has a happy ending, and I think people need to know this because there are some more difficult stuff in the book, but it does have a happy ending.
That's that's a that's like a pretty good story that you just gave us. Um, yeah, that is kind of like a unique perspective that you're bringing. Like, because, like, if you look at, like, many people talking about Christmas or Thanksgiving or Halloween or whatever the hell they are celebrating, they're like, this is going to be like bad. And especially in Western countries where, like, sons and daughters are not really close with their parents all the throughout the year, and they meet up in that particular day, and they carry all the frustration throughout the of the whole year on that one particular day,
Hmm.
and that becomes like a ticking bomb. It's all about who is going to burst first.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it can really illustrate what the problems in a close relationship are. And, my take on it would be, if you know there's a problem there, then, well, what are you doing about it? Because you can just try to survive something like Christmas, and I've done it
Hmm.
myself, and I know people who just say,
Hmm.
I just need to get through the day. And sometimes
Hmm.
that may be the only rational thing to do. Maybe it isn't possible to fix that relationship. Maybe it's just
Hmm.
too complicated. But you are right, the risks are high because
Hmm.
there's a lot of pent up stuff. Plus, there is just this expectation that we're all meant to be happy and joyous and
Yeah.
everything else. And I think that expectation by itself can create a whole load of problems as well.
Yeah, because I was having this like just like banter with a person, and because like he was also like into little bit like human behavior, and like we are just crazy people, essentially. And we were just talking about it, and he said, like the only way that you can make a sad person angry is by asking why you're not happy, why you're not happy. And the more times you're going to ask, the anger is going to come out. So yeah, like do you think like because you have gone through this particular thing in your life, and also you have written a book, by the way, which is not an antichrist, guys, like just go read it. It's not about it's not about religion, please go read it. But do you think like like we are so connected today in today's world, like I could send you 100 messages in a day, and you could send me like a million messages in a day, that oftentimes we are not talking about the important things in life.
So true, so true. I have no time for small talk. I cannot be bothered with it. I don't know why people do it. So it's really interesting because for a lot of people, it's obviously the way they like to connect, and a lot of our social media is kind of set up in that way as well. Um, I think we would benefit from having more deeper conversations about things. So one of the things I talk about in the book, which was probably the bit I paused about whether to include it, but I decided to. So my sense is we have these different parts of what makes us human. We've got our minds, we've got our emotions, we've clearly got bodies, and we've got our spirit, our spiritual side. And the spiritual side was the bit where I was really unsure about writing the book. But I shared a bit of my story. So I'm an active Christian, but my beliefs have evolved over time. And I described that a bit in the book. And I was really clear to say, I am not trying to convert anyone to my faith or my way of thinking. That's not what I'm trying to do. But what I do think matters is that we all talk more about what we believe and why, and we chat to each other. We chat to people we trust about what we believe, because I just see a lot of people who don't ever talk about it. Belief, I don't know whether this is the same, in different parts of the world. It probably isn't. But where I am in the UK, we don't really talk about faith. It's a bit of a dangerous subject to get onto. You don't want to offend anyone, and you know, rock the boat or anything like that. Whereas I actually think we would all benefit from talking about it a bit more, and just being exposed to some different ideas from different people, and then being as solid as we can be in what we believe about the world. Because you know what, the way I respond to a difficult situation will be absolutely guided by what I believe about the world. Why are we here? What's going on a big scale? And how we respond to the difficult stuff is absolutely shaped by what we believe.
Sorry, I have a brain of like a chipmunk. I was talking while I was on mute.
Easy done,
Yeah.
easy done.
Yeah. um because you brought this dangerous topic of religion into this conversation. um yeah, do you think like religion is really necessary for people to survive?
No, I don't. I mean, there are clearly. a whole load of people who go through life quite happily without a religion. I just, but belief can come in different forms. Belief can come being atheist. Belief can be, being agnostic, just genuinely saying, I'm not sure. That is my answer to this question. I think what we as human beings can't get away from is, how did we get here? How did this universe, this world get here? What is the big answer to that question? I don't think, yeah, you can live a lot of life without going near that question if you want to. But I do think that when the difficult stuff comes along, and whatever that difficult stuff looks like for each person, it is inevitably going to come. That's when this whole question about belief becomes more important, I think, because your
Hmm.
very core is being attacked in some way, whether it's because you've lost someone that you loved, or because it's you've lost your job that you thought was going to be forever, or whatever it is, whatever really difficult thing comes along. It raises these questions, that are very hard to deal with if you've never thought about what you believe before.
Yeah, I don't know who said this. They said that the only difference between atheist and like a person who really is religious, it's just that they like cars, but they just like different models.
Yeah, it's one way of looking at it. I mean, yeah, it's,
Yeah, because they're like, I don't like Ford. I like I don't know, like Toyota, and that's like the only difference between a religious person and atheist, because everybody understands and has this concept of super beings, where we are like, I understand, like how freaking fragile is human being. And yeah, that's, I don't know who said that. Yeah, but I thought that was a great analogy for what we're talking about.
yeah, and
um,
some people describe religion as a crutch. It's like, oh, it's just a crutch that you lean on, and people who need religion are weaker than people who don't. I've heard that be said. Uh, for me, it goes beyond that. I mean, I'm a Christian, and I believe in the Christian God. And however, the next caveat I would put on it is that, by definition, I can't know if I'm right or not. None of us can know if we're right or not, or what right even looks like, or this is this gets into the realm of the unanswerable. Um,
mhm,
but as I say, I just think it's hard for human beings to get away from that, and I think we would benefit from being willing to have open but respectful conversations. And I've seen it where it works really, really well, and people can learn a lot and grow a lot. If you just are very closed and not wanting to talk about it, then that can have its downsides.
mhm. Got it. Anyways, flying away from religion, because that's a landmine that I don't want to step in, because I want to live. Anyways, so let's just talk about, I don't know, countries and just like people just living in this tribals, like tribes, and having this tribalist mentality. What I'm really trying to get at it is, I am inadvertently stepping into the religion realm again, um, because there seems to be a particular like point in a spectrum where you become a great religious person, and if you lean into it or away from it, you kind of start becoming an asshole. um, because those people who say this is antichrist are like the most like, cringe people, because if God created everything, like what is antichrist, right? Like it's that simple. But if you lean away from it, who say nothing exists, only we exist, um, that also becomes like a dumb point. Where do you stand in this particular spectrum?
Oh my goodness. Well, that having said you were going to move away from religion, Ganesh, I think you just like walked right into it. Um,
Yeah.
Look, I how am I going to answer that? Fundamentally, I believe that God exists, and the only real rule that I believe in is God said to love Him and to love each other. Uh, that that is the fundamental basis. And you could say, "Oh, that's very wishy-washy, Alexandra." Well, is it though? Because when you actually unpack what it means to love each other, I mean, you just talked about tribes. loving each other means
Mm-hmm.
love everyone, right? And
Mm-hmm.
try to live well. And then if you unpack that further, what does that mean? That's where it all gets really complicated, and we can really be
Mm-hmm.
confronted by our selfishness, our greed, or whatever else it is that we have issues with. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's the way I see things, it's easy, but it's also incredibly hard, and it's a whole lifetime of learning what that means and how to live that way. um and I come back to the example of my father. I i was his only child. I was his only living relative,
Mm-hmm.
actually. For My mother died nearly 10 years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
she was taken sooner than we would have wished. Even though I found him basically impossible, I stuck around with him. My husband and I stuck around with him for so long, even though it was really hard, because we just said to each other, we're the only people he has in the world. We're going to stick around and we're going to make the best of it.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, things came to a point where that wasn't possible anymore, and it was all linked to he was an alcoholic, and he always had problems with alcohol, but they got worse. And eventually, last year, a line was crossed, and he and I became estranged, and that was really hard,
Mm-hmm.
because that was an example of, it's not that I didn't love him anymore, in the sense that he was my father, and I knew him better than almost anyone else on the planet. But sometimes you have to look after yourself, and sometimes looking after yourself
Mm-hmm.
means saying, no, I can't. I cannot be completely selfless anymore, because if I do that, I will cease to exist properly as a human being.
Yeah.
So these things, all I'm trying to say is, these things are really complicated when you get down into the
Mm-hmm.
guts of what does it mean to love God and to love other people.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And Alexandra, I'm seeing like you're doing a lot of heavy lifting. I want to like give you a break. So on your Instagram, you say that you're also a musician. So what kind of music do you like? Like, do you like metallic, heavy metal?
No, what? So my love of music goes way back. When I was at school, I loved to sing and play the piano. Um, what I really love to do is to compose. And when I was at school, I wrote different songs, particularly Christmas carols, actually, to come back to the Christmas theme, because it's a natural thing that we do at Christmas time. We sing, so I did that. And then when I was at university, it's quite a funny story. I was part of a Christian group called the Christian Music and Drama Society, and we put on a show every year. And we were
Mm-hmm.
sitting there at the end of the year saying, what are we going to do next year? What's our big thing going to be?
Mm-hmm.
And I suddenly found myself opening my stupid mouth and saying, how
Mm-hmm.
about I write a musical over the summer holidays and then we can put it on?
Mm-hmm.
And they all said, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that would be great. That's amazing. I had no idea what the musical was going to be
Mm-hmm.
about, how I was going to write it, when I was going to write it. It happened, and
Mm-hmm.
it was quite a fine deadline, shall we say, because I had a really busy summer. I was doing all sorts of
Mm-hmm.
things. I wrote the musical, the guts of it, in 10 days. It was the most incredible creative experience of my life. It came out. And
Mm-hmm.
every day I would come back to my piano and I would play the songs and I would scribble them down on the manuscript and everything. So that was a fun experience, I have to say.
Mm-hmm. Got it. I'm sorry I laughed in the middle because I'm not laughing at Christians or anything. And yeah, I don't give a fuck even if I laugh at that. I was just thinking about you saying, like I was this in Christian band, and all of a sudden one day I became a trap rapper, and
Not quite, but yeah.
I, yeah, I was almost expecting that. I was like, yeah, she's going to say I became like a heavy metal person, and I moved away from UK because it was not a very fostering environment for me. Yeah, but what type of music do you like the classical music or just like like rap songs or R&B? Like, what do you like?
Oh, you're going to draw it out of me. So I do love classical music, and obviously that's a
Mm-hmm.
massive genre. So I like some more than others. Um, I do love the romantic period. So I played Grieg's piano concerto at university, and that kind of romantic classical music. My other love, and this is where I will probably get people booing me, I don't know, or some people will love it, some people will hate it. I love country music. Not all country
Mhm,
music. Again, it's quite
mhm,
a broad realm, but I do. There's something about it. There's something about the storytelling in country music, and I just do
mhm,
love a good banjo. It turns out
mhm. So you like American country music?
I do.
So yeah, that's pretty opinionated. Anyways, I also love country music, and I'm all the way over here in India. So when because here we have like a lot of folk songs,
Mhm.
and when I tell people like, have you heard of country songs? Like it's a genre, and they're like, yeah, I know folk songs. I'm like, yeah, that's not what country music is. Um, yeah, because I think classical music and country music are I think one of the like two of the most opinionated musics. Either you hate it or you absolutely love it.
Yeah, I was quite afraid to tell people I liked country music because I would get laughed at. I own a
Mm-hmm.
cowboy hat or maybe a cowgirl hat. I don't know, but I own one
Mm-hmm.
anyway. The other thing that I love, and it's wonderful when it happens. So in Scotland, that we have Gaelic music, the traditional music,
Yes.
and you can sometimes
Yes.
get the fusion of American
Mm-hmm.
country and Scottish traditional music, and it is, and indeed Irish traditional music as well, and that is beautiful. There's
Mm-hmm.
something called the transatlantic sessions, and it is amazing bringing those people together
Mm-hmm.
and just getting them to jam.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing to listen to.
Yeah. Imagine, imagine like the same people who hated each other 250 or 300 years ago are playing music together. I mean, that would speak volume by itself.
Yeah, yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, because I like this rap scene that's happening in like United Kingdom right now or Britain.
Hmm.
Like, have you ever even like heard of those songs?
Not really. I've got to be honest. I think everyone has music that they love more, and everyone has their own
Mm-hmm.
taste, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I have come to realize is how important creativity is generally
Mm-hmm.
for healing. So actually one of the
Yeah.
foundational values of my business is creativity, and it can be
Mm-hmm.
different things for different people. Whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is that helps you explore, understand yourself, work
Mm-hmm.
through things. I think creativity of all kinds
Yeah.
is amazing.
That being said, guys, like to my audience, this is my opinion. I think artists who are not like rappers like are too like way too weak in creativity, because it does not take a lot of creativity to write like a Miley Cyrus or a Taylor Swift song. It does not have a lot of wordplay in it, and it does not have any complicated vocabulary involved. um being said that, if you look at like rap, um it takes lot of IQ, let's say, like a lot of intelligence to write those things. And I know you must be laughing, you must be saying, like it's all about bitches and fuck and all these things, right? um but I urge you to just look at word plays, because that's a very big thing in rap. Like, like they use one word to mean two other things or three other things sometimes, and that does not simply exist in any other form of music.
You're absolutely right about creativity, and I mean, to go back to what I know, to go back to country music, there
Mm-hmm.
are so many songs that just one
Mm-hmm.
after another, they come on the radio and you're like, that's the same as that,
Yeah.
that's the same as that. They're basically, and me with my musical mind, I'm like, it's exactly the same chord progression. There's no imagination,
Mm-hmm.
it's just the same old thing.
Yeah.
But you know it when you hear something that is inspired in some way. And
Mm-hmm.
you just know it
Yeah.
when you hear it. And as someone who composes music, I think I know it when it happens when I'm writing something. I've written a range of songs, and I would generally say I like them all, but there are definitely some which have something more in them than others.
Got it. I urge you to look at like rap battles, especially where they're like not like written, like anything that comes as rap battle on TV. You look at it's like it's pretty much written like before that, like, of course they at least have some kind of idea like where they're going. Because if I had to talk about Alexandra, because I know Alexandra, right? Because I know, okay, she's going to come on the show and talk up, like she's going to be against me, I have that time to prepare, right? But if you go to YouTube and just look at rap battles in on streets, that is just random people like dissing each other, it just insulting each other, and you look at the wordplay and the kind of readiness that people are like, they'll just look at you and they will say 100 different things that you did not think about yourself. And I think like that's like the epitome of creativity, unfortunately. That's what I think. Because yeah, writing a 3 paragraph song in like freaking 50 days is not really creative. It's just thought process. But like being on the spot and coming up with something is like the true test of creativity.
Well, I'm
Like,
going to take
what's your opinion on this
I'm
thing?
gonna take that away as my homework. Absolutely, I'll go and listen. Yeah, I mean, definitely being creative on the spot is huge. And if you, I mean, I think my counter to that would be sometimes when people are just jamming in the moment, it can descend into
Hmm.
being less interesting because you just go back to what you know. Because if you're having to create
Hmm.
instantaneously, you might just
Hmm.
revert back to what you're comfortable with. If you've got a bit more
Hmm.
time, you can explore some new things. You can test some boundaries out. So look, it can work in different ways. But no, I've definitely got some homework to
Hmm.
take away from this conversation.
Yeah. Yes, Alexandra, definitely, please just look at it. I think you'll hate it because you might not like it. But I want you to like really look into the play of words and the kind of like bars or just lines that they put in out there and very instantly, like that's very pretty hard. So do you like jazz?
I do like jazz. I probably don't listen to it as often
Hmm.
as I might do, but yes, it's a fun genre.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you're in the minority right now because you like classical, country, and jazz. I mean, yeah, it's like pretty outrageous combo of music that is country music, jazz, and of course classical music. So the reason I brought up that is, like there are absolutely like weird genres of music. Like, are you aware of any weird genres in music?
Ooh, interesting question. To some extent, but I do tend to kind of stick to the things I know I love. I should probably go and try more things out, right? It's
Yeah.
but yeah, you can. I mean, you can find anything. I think it's particularly fun when people explore different instruments because we're so used to like the core instruments that are always used in pop music, and I
Hmm.
I just think it's probably one of the reasons I like country music because there are different instruments and maybe a bit more variety as well that you get in different
Hmm.
songs. So yeah, I think that's always good.
Yeah. And I also think like, like music is like one thing that's not political right now. I mean, of course there are artists who are
Mm.
like who are into politics and all these things, but music itself is not like political, or it does not stand for anything, right? It does not stand for peace, war, violence, or whatever it is. It's just like, music is music.
Music's a tool.
um
Music's a creative tool. You can use it to
mhm,
any end, really. I mean,
mhm,
yeah, there are definitely artists who have landed up in political messes because they've
mhm,
decided to make a stand on something.
mhm,
Um, but I mean, music is a tool, like so many other things, and you can use it for
mhm,
good, you can use it for ill, you can use it well, you can use it badly. It's so yeah, it's I think coming back full circle to the whole life coach thing, that's what it's about. What are the tools at your disposal, and how are you going to use them, and how's that gonna
mhm.
benefit you?
Got it. um so just moving on, like, which city do you live in currently?
So we now live on the northwest coast of Scotland. So north of
Hmm.
Edinburgh, if you've heard of Edinburgh,
Yeah.
way up in the north. It's basically near the Isle of Skye, which is quite famous. So that's where we
Hmm.
are. I can see the sea from my window.
Hmm. Alexandra, I need to remind you, I'm an Indian. So we are very much aware of the Great Britain. Very much, like the cities that you just mentioned and all these things. Yeah. Like, how is like you a part of country, like different than, let's say, London?
So so London and England are kind of the south part of the island,
Yeah.
and then Scotland's at the top. I
Yeah.
mean, Scotland's just got a lot of countryside. It's got a lot of mountains. So my husband and I actually met at St Andrews University, which is in Scotland, and we then moved to London to pursue our
Hmm.
careers. But I then decided that I loved hill walking, and Scotland has all these hills,
Hmm.
and it has hills called the Munros, which are all the hills above 3,000 feet in height, which is nothing
Hmm.
compared to like the Himalayas and all the really massive ranges. But
Yeah.
anyway, there are hills, and there are 282 of them, and
Hmm.
there is a game you can play or a pursuit you can follow to try to climb all of them. So I then suddenly said to
Hmm.
my lovely, dear husband, I want to climb all the Munros, but we live in London. So it was 500 miles to even get to where these hills were, let alone to then climb
Hmm.
them. But we did it because I'm quite persistent when I decide that I want to do something. So, but then we just
Hmm.
suddenly decided,
Yeah.
why do we live in London when actually we just want to be in the hills all the time? So that's kind of why we decided
Hmm.
to move up here permanently.
Because you live in such a good place. Good place. Um, um, like, do you like the city life? Like, do you like the comfort that city offers, or do you like the peace that like countryside offers?
Definitely the latter. I love the peace of the countryside. I mean, we lived in a city for 15 years, my husband and I, and I could do it, but I didn't want a lot of what the city offered enough to want to make me want to stay. Whereas it's interesting, a lot of my friends are the exact opposite, and they just say to me, "Oh, I'd be so bored." Um,
Hmm.
so each to their own. I think it's one of those things, isn't it?
Yeah. um because I also live in a city, like in little concrete jungle.
Yeah.
you know yeah, and I'm like very anti city. I'm like, fuck cities. Yeah, because right now, like, things in my city, like, have gone like really crazy in terms of access. Like, have you heard of a concept called as 10-minute cities?
No, I haven't.
So 10-minute cities is like a movement or a decision by United Nations, where they said we are going to build cities where each and individual citizen will have access to healthcare, education, and just luxury within 10 minutes of their reach.
Makes sense. Yep.
So that's like Bangalore is one of those cities. It's a 10-minute city, and people have become really freaking lazy out here. um, because we have these mobile apps where you could order anything, right? Like groceries, diapers, to iPhones, to gold and jewelry and everything, and it will be delivered within 10 minutes
Mm.
on your doorstep.
Yeah, well,
So
do you know, I used to benefit from that in London, and you really realize it when you're out in the middle of nowhere, and it's like there is no
mhm,
way of just getting something in 10 minutes or even in a day. Our nearest
yeah.
place that we can get proper stuff is, I don't know, an hour and a half's drive away. So you kind of have to plan to go there and get whatever you need and
Hmm.
get back again. So it is a very different
Yeah.
world, and I do sometimes miss that. I do remember when we were packing up our house in London, and we didn't have
Hmm.
enough packing tape. We do, you just run out
Hmm.
of packing tape when you're putting all your stuff in your boxes. And we literally got some delivered in about half an hour. I've never done that before, and I will
Hmm.
probably never do it again now. But I did it once, and this tape just arrived miraculously at our doorstep. So there you go.
Yeah, but I also feel like that is making people lazy. um but what I feel is like, if if for example the lifestyle that you're living in, like you need to be far more resourceful than folks in cities, right? Because if you forgot something, you just deal with it. You just say fuck it, I'm not going back, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas in city, you just keep ordering, to infinity.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. And when you were talking about the, was it 10-minute cities? I mean, I think it's a brilliant idea in terms of access, and particularly for people who are less mobile and who need things to be nearby. It's like having a little microcosm where you live, and then there's another
Hmm.
one next to you and another one next to you. Um, but equally, in terms of getting out and exploring more broadly. One of the things I really enjoyed doing in London was just walking for miles. I would just go walking. I
Hmm.
hardly used the tube. We had like the underground. It's not my
Yeah.
favorite place in the world, and people would use it even if they were only going like two stops. And I would say to them, why don't you just walk? It's only like a
Hmm.
mile and a half or something. And people just
Yeah.
didn't walk very much. So yeah, I think there is definitely something about exercise as well, which
Hmm.
is quite important.
Yeah. And I also like tell a lot of my friends who have like this habit of impulsive buying. I'm like, just move to a countryside.
That's one way of dealing with it. There might be another way.
Yeah, because, like if you wanted uh, something that's expensive and stupid, you could just order it in 10 minutes and here it is. Like, just deal with it, boom, right? But in countryside, if you order it, you'd have to wait for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. And in that period you might realize, okay, like this is not something that I need, and just cancel the order altogether.
Yeah, yeah. Well, all I can say is I now have to plan more when I want something delivered. It will be at least a week in most cases before something turns up, so I have to plan.
Hmm. But do you also think that the way like your lifestyle is just structured, there is you're more mindful of waste?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think that is a mindset to some extent. It always shocks me that there's a statistic here in the UK that we throw away a third of our food as food waste, and I'm like, a third? How is that even possible? Like, I just don't.
That's just supermarkets.
It's madness when you think about it. I do think that
Hmm.
the recent difficulties with cost of living have made people more aware, and obviously that has been a very difficult thing for people to deal with. Maybe a side effect has been people being a little bit more careful. Um, yeah, I hate it whenever I have to throw food away. If I've just not planned right, it just makes me very upset. So I try
Hmm.
not to. I try not to do that. And then obviously you got all the other waste as well, all the other stuff that we keep buying, and clearly that has to stop. Like, the only way we'll get to a more sustainable future is if we just stop buying so much stuff. So it's going to be
Hmm.
a good challenge for us to try and keep dealing with that. I think people think recycling can deal with everything, and it just can't.
Yeah, he just can't. um yes, and I also think like, because like city people, they don't have like the even the least access to soil or fruits or vegetables that are actual fruits and vegetables,
Mm,
not the cosmetic ones. And I saw a documentary where they were throwing away like misshaped carrots and
yeah.
bananas. I was like, yeah, you're fucking crazy, like you're lost it now. Because whatever shape you eat of the particular fruit, it's going to go to the stomach, and
Yeah,
like it's going to be just get digested. It's not like your body is like, this banana is like half a centimeter curved more, I don't want it.
I
Like, the
know.
body does not do that. And
Well,
there are
all
countries.
of this comes back to what's really important in life, doesn't it? And I think we have a habit of
Yeah.
maybe focusing on the wrong things. I think, and one of the tricks
Hmm.
in life is like coming back to yourself every now and again. What really matters? Does this really matter? Do I really
Hmm.
need this thing, or is it just something that
Yeah.
I'm trying to make myself feel better about something?
Yeah.
Actually, something completely different.
Like, this is one of those things that I hate about sophistication, like sophisticated people. They're like, I want my vegetable in a certain color and shape. I'm like, fuck you. Like, all you need is 3 years of famine and you're back to eating potatoes and freaking dirt. Like that's how
Mm.
far away we are from like the collapse of this sophisticated people. You know, and people just don't realize it,
Yeah.
especially in cities. I saw statistics that in United States, 1 out of every 4 containers of food is rejected on a regular basis.
Mm.
And because it is so expensive to bring it back, like let's say potato was exported from Scotland to United States, right? And 1 in 4 containers, that is 25% of the food was rejected, and it is so expensive to bring it back that they just dump it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, we're going to have to learn what to do about that because you're right, our life is way more precarious than we like to think it
Mhm.
is, and becoming
Yeah.
more so. And I do think understanding of that is beginning to increase. But I think people can feel a bit hopeless, and then they're like, well, it doesn't make any difference what I do, everything is stuffed anyway. And we have to find a way past that, a way to go, right, how do we make the very best of this situation, and how do we use our resources wisely, and make sure everyone is looked after, etc., etc. It's our
Hmm.
big challenge, I think.
Yeah. I don't know where I read it, but it was an author who wrote that, um, you see sophisticated become barbarians at the first sign of trouble.
Mm.
Like, um, the biggest example, COVID. You know.
Yeah, when people are tested, that is when you know everything gets hard, and you can see more difficult
Yeah.
characteristics coming out. And it's one of the reasons I care so much about healing, whatever it is that has made life difficult for someone. If you don't heal from something, it's going to come out in
Mhm.
different ways, and it's going to come out in protection mechanisms and all sorts of different things, which are not great for the individual, and they're not great generally. And it would be far better if we, explored these things and, as I say, come back to an understanding of what really matters in life, and the stuff that
Mhm.
we can just actually look at and say, you know what, that is not important.
Mhm. Yeah. Of course, because that's like kind of, because if people don't look at their troubles and just say everything is fine, like there is only so much time before they realize, okay, it's not what I'm thinking about. Yeah, but it's a very complicated kind of thing to approach.
Mm-hmm.
uh yeah, but at the end of the day, Alexandra, I might like disagree with something, or you might disagree with with this point of me. I feel like healing, positiveness, like working on yourself is for those people who have economic means to do it.
Phew, that's a tough one. I mean, I I totally understand that when someone is in more difficult life circumstances, then so much of one's brain is going to be focused on survival. How do I support myself? How do I support my family? How do I, all those kind of things. Um, I still like to believe there is room for dealing with whatever it is that is making that person's life difficult, because yeah, so that's what I would love to do. I mean, that is what I am hoping to achieve in my small way with my business, is reaching as many people as I can with different ways of healing. I don't think it has to be this major project, or necessarily. Sometimes it does. So my book about Christmas, that was a major project that I did last year with Christmas. But sometimes it's just a few minutes here or there. How you employ a few tactics and quite simple techniques that can change your outlook in a way that might actually blow your mind. But it has to be fairly consistent, but it doesn't have to be like this major project. I'm working on myself. I've got the privilege of being able to spend all my time working on myself. I don't think it has to be like that. So yeah, that's part of what I hope to help with my work.
Hmm. Got it. And Alexandra, if people want to reach you, where can they reach you?
So probably the best place is go to my website, so damselnotindistress.co.uk. You can sign up to my newsletter. I've got a couple of free gifts that you can get as well, and that will get you kind of plugged into my world. I'm also on Instagram as well, so with similar names, so you can find me there too.
Hmm. Got it. And any like parting words to my audience?
Just oh, my parting words. If there is something in your soul that is nagging at you, there's a reason why it's nagging at you, and find a way to explore it. Get some help if you want it and need it. I think ignoring it is not the best way to go. Actually, finding a way to shine a light on that thing that is gnawing at you is definitely the way that you can make it to the other side and be happier and more fulfilled.
Got it. And thank you, Alexandra, very much for taking your time and being on the show. It was great. I tried to make you controversial, but unfortunately, I failed to make you controversial. Yeah. And to my audience, thank you very much, guys. This is the end of the episode. And yeah, Alexandra's website will be in the link description. Just go there and check her website out, and if possible, just support her, because her Instagram count is a bit low, so we need to recharge it. So let's take a shot at that too. And until the next episode, take care. Bye bye.